Writing verbal expressions. In these examples, we're going to write the expression verbally. So we need to know some buzzwords that stand for our different signs that we use in math. For example, the plus sign, we can write plus. We can say sum. We can, say added to or anything like that that means increasing. More than, we're going to do something more than whatever. Also means plus. So there are several ways we can write this. We could write it as the sum of 9 and 7. We could write it simply as 9 plus 7. We could write it as 9 increased by 7, or we could even write it as 9 more than 7. These all mean 9 plus 7 right there. Okay, so, and I don't care how you write it as long as you write it out in words. In this next one, we have 5 minus 2n, which we could simply write as 5 minus 2 times n. That is one acceptable way to write it. You could write it as the difference of 5 and the product, because product means multiply, of 2 and n. That's an acceptable way to write it as well. Or you could write 2 times n less than 5. That's an acceptable way to write it because you're subtracting off the 2 times n. So there are a lot of different ways to write it. Times means product, so if you want to say multiply, or you could say 2 multiplied by n subtracted from 5. So those are all acceptable ways to write this expression. Alright, in this last one we have x minus the quantity whenever there are parentheses like this. That's when you say the quantity, and then anything after quantity is the thing that's in parentheses. So the quantity of 7 squared plus 3 times x, and this should be minus. Okay, so that's an acceptable way to write that one. Or we could just say the difference of x and the quantity of the sum of 7 squared and 3 times x. There's just so many ways that you can write it. You could also say the same thing except the product of 3 and x at that point. It all means the same thing. So the more numbers and stuff happening, the more you're going to have to write. Just remember that plus, we can say plus or sum, more, increase, anything like that. Minus, we could say difference, less, subtracted from, anything like that. Multiply, we could say product times, doubled, tripled, that kind of thing, and multiply by 2 or 3. For divided by, we could say divided by. We could say quotient. That's a tricky one. So whenever you see quotient, it means you're dividing two numbers. You could say half or divided. That's all that those mean. So just remember the words that we can use to say each of these different things and put them in the right order. Be careful of some of them. Okay, now these next ones, we're going to go the other direction. We have an expression, we need to write it in numbers. So when we're writing it in numbers, kind of just start by understanding what's going on. 17, which is obviously 17 right there, minus, so there's a subtraction sign. The sum means I'm going to add something, of 9 and 5. Okay, so 17 minus the sum, so I'm going to add two things together. What am I adding together? 9 and 5. So there's my new expression written in numerals. And the next one, the product, product means multiply, of 5, and the difference means I'm going to subtract something, of 8 and 3. 8 and 3. Okay, so the product of 5 times the difference, so subtracting, what am I subtracting? I'm subtracting 8 and 3. So 5 times 8 minus 3, or you might write it as 5, 8 minus 3, and put them right next to each other. Either one is correct. And this last example, again, we're going to write the expression in numerals. Half means we're going to somehow divide by 2 or 1/2, right, 1/2 of the quantity, so I'm going to put things in parentheses, of 1 less, less in this case means minus because you're taking 1 away. So 1, and you're taking that 1 away from something. What are you taking it away from? The product, which is multiply, of 2 and n, which is just a variable. So if I put that together, 1/2 of the quantity, 1 less, so minus 1, the product of 2 times n. Okay, so how I would simplify this would write as 1/2 times 2n minus 1, or you could write it as 2n minus 1 divided by 2. Either one of those is good. And that's your final answer. So those are your notes over writing verbal expressions. Go through the practice problems. Make sure you can write these all in different ways and understand the different ways they can be written in case you come across something like that. And then you should be ready for your quiz over this material.